Welcome to the Drew Allen Show. This is Drew Allen, your millennial minister of truth. Boy, boy. If you don't know who you're dealing with yet, who the left is right now, stick around. Stick around. Because we're dealing with monsters, and the Democrat Party has created an army of mind-numbed, hate-filled, violent monsters in this country and around the world. The leftist ideology has created that. I hope you know that. You can't sit down and kumbaya your way out of this with people. And I've got some audio that I'm going to share with you in a little bit that's uncensored. I will warn you before it comes up. It is disgusting. It is vile. It is riddled with expletives that I will not speak myself. But I'm going to play that audio for you. And that audio is directed at a conservative, someone on the right, who is trying to ensure free and fair elections going forward. And CNN wrote a hit piece on this person, Catherine Engelbrecht, and the response was death threats to her. And so I have one of those phone calls, one of dozens that she received from a man. And so I want you to hear that because I want you to understand what we're up against. Who is out there that is on their side? This is not a policy discussion anymore. That ship sailed a long time ago. This is a fight of good versus evil. And you need to prepare yourself mentally for that fight. There is no, like I said, kumbaya with these people. You better be assertive. You better have conviction. There is no, let me just hear your side. Oh, yes, that's right. I understand that you believe that Trump should be assassinated. Yeah. Let's sit down at the dinner table, and I will convince you otherwise. Even though you're telling me that the Trump assassination either didn't happen, it was a hoax, or otherwise you are sad that it didn't lead to Trump's murder. But the thing that gets me the most, the thing that, of course, is so frustrating is that no matter what you say, no matter what facts you present, no matter what evidence, no matter what truth you stick in front of a Democrat's face, they don't care. They will not believe it. And the media is largely responsible for that, of course. But what we're witnessing right now is an erasure of history. We're witnessing the glaring hypocrisy and insanity of the left and the Democrat Party in this country, as we will discuss as it relates to Venezuela and what happened there. Oh, now we can talk about stolen elections as long as we don't talk about them here in the United States of America. The same Democrats that are opposing Maduro right now, right? The same Democrats are saying he stole the election in Venezuela. The same Democrats who are supporting the Venezuelan people as they approach their 1776 moments, as they protest in the streets, right? They're not calling that an insurrection. But think about this. They support the Venezuelan people's freedom. They support the Venezuelan people and their crusade to rid themselves of the evil of socialism, which has destroyed Venezuela. And yet they support the Democratic Party, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, who all are socialists. Worse, even Marxists and communists. And so when the Venezuelans are struggling to overcome socialism, they cheer them. And yet they want to bring about that very destructive ideology here in America. It makes you sick to your stomach. It makes me sick to my stomach. But, you know, everywhere you go, contradictions. I mean, I don't know how you live as a Democrat, but I want to go through a few of these things. I want to start with what happened at the Olympics. I don't care to some extent. I mean, this is who they are. I'm not surprised that the Parisians in particular would put on such a disgusting display. They do everything and go too far all the time. You know, the Italians can do 2 kisses, 1 on each cheek. That's perfect. It's balanced. The French have to do 3. 1, 2, 3. It's too much. Everything's too much. The sauces, whatever else. Nothing simple over there. They've always got to indulge. Their whole history is about indulgency. King Louis IV, the Sun King, and so on and so forth. So this is who the French are in some ways. They've always been tempted to go too far. But it has nothing to do with the French people themselves. What I care about is the fact that these people are frauds and liars. Yes, it irritates me that you have a bunch of atheists, godless communist Marxists, leftists that run everything, including the Olympics in Paris on that committee. Now, what bothers me the most is the gaslighting. And I've seen it from Democrats. Oh, no. It was not, had nothing to do with the Last Supper. You know what I'm talking about, right? The opening ceremony of the Olympics, which they have since scrubbed from the internet. People that were circulating that video on X had their accounts targeted and threatened to be shut down because they were, sharing the video. And I guess, the French government or the committee, they filed a complaint against these people to try and make it go away, trying to erase the history. They're doing the same thing with Kamala Harris, with her previous radical positions that are still her current radical positions, but they want to convince you otherwise, that those are no longer her positions. So I just want to do this as a public service. And I want you to show this to your Democrat friends who are insisting that you are insane, that this was not mocking the Last Supper. Your Democrat friends who say, oh, you need to calm down. This was an inclusive thing. This was wonderful what happened. You can't be offended. But most in particular, I want you to focus on the people that are telling you to your face that you're wrong, that you didn't see what you saw with your own eyes, that you're somehow ignorant. You're not artistic enough. You don't have a basis of understanding. This wasn't the Last Supper, you silly goose, you fool. This was about this other painting of Bacchus or whatever. Greek mythology. Yeah. What you saw was just, you made a mistake. You're just not smart enough or intellectual enough to understand it. And so you should feel guilty for reacting like you did. You should feel guilty for being offended because there was no reason to be offended. So I want to go through this here. Let me just find, so I keep myself organized here. So first and foremost, I want to start with this. There was a French tourism website and, sortireaparis.com, right? So this is a website. I'll pull this back up in a second. And ahead of the Olympics, this is what they published on their website. They've since pulled this down, of course. But also on the Passerelle de Billy is a familiar scene reenacted by drag queens, including the famous Nikki Doll surrounding Barbara Butch at her turntables, a recreation of the Last Supper, another famous painting by Leonardo da Vinci set against the backdrop of the Seine. As you may have guessed, this is a multiple pun in French. A fashion show allows paying homage to the capital of fashion. So there you have it. So ahead of the games, you have a Parisian tourist website that's already telling you that they're going to show this drag queen version of the Last Supper. If that's not enough evidence, how about the people that were actually involved in the drag performance? How about them? Barbara Butch, right? The famous person that was mocking Jesus himself. That's right. This drag individual was the center of attention, the center of that display. And so here is the actual imposter himself, I suppose, Barbara Butch, the woman who was wearing the halo crown. This is what the drag person posted on her Instagram account. The Last Supper. All right? So she posts a picture, because if you're not watching, I have to explain this to the audience. So if you understand, this is also a podcast that goes out and people listen to. So forgive me if it seems silly if you're watching this and I'm doing this, but people are just listening too. So she puts this Instagram post out, and I honestly, I don't know, but whatever. I'll just go with she. So she posts a picture on her own Instagram account of the image of her and the other drag queens. And below that is a picture of Da Vinci's painting, famous painting, The Last Supper. And Barbara Butch writes, oh yes, the New Gay Testament. So Barbara Butch, who was involved in this, apparently believed also that this was the gay New Testament, right? Mocking Christianity, mocking the Last Supper, mocking the faith of billions. But, of course, what happened after that? Well, they went into damage control. And Barbara Bush pulled that down and replaced it with this. Just a picture of her with a halo, and says, "We'll forever be proud and support this moment of art reference, The Feast of the Gods by Jan Harmans van Bilgerlert," whatever. So it's gaslighting. So somebody, maybe the art director who was responsible for this, went out and gaslit us. They just decided, oh, well, it's a feast, it's a dinner. We know it's the Last Supper, but I will just lie and tell people that it's not. We'll rewrite history. It doesn't matter that the website told us it was Da Vinci's Last Supper. And this is what I cannot tolerate and stand: the lies, the gaslighting. Now, on the one hand, these people tell us, why are we offended? We shouldn't be offended by this. And on the other hand, they go through all these great lengths to revise history. So apparently they do understand that they've done something wrong. They have gone too far. And this is my point, though. These are unapologetic, amoral people with no principles. Now, if you were to get one of these drag queens' pronouns wrong, that would be considered a hate crime, deeply, deeply offensive. But them making fun and mocking Christianity and the Last Supper with their drag show, which I don't care. If you don't have a problem with that, if you think you're a Christian or claim to be a Christian and you do not find that offensive, then you better read your Bible. You better get into Scripture. You are studying something that is not real Christianity. Okay? And so beyond that, you had an email that was sent to the Washington Times and others. I'm sure it was kind of a standard email. Those that were inquiring, hey, what the heck is going on here? And the email, the committee admitted it. They say clearly there was never an intention to show disrespect towards any religious group or belief. Bull crap, said a Paris 2024 spokesperson. This is in a Saturday email to the Washington Times. On the contrary, each of the tableaux in the Paris 2024 opening ceremony were intended to celebrate community and tolerance. The email continued. For the festivities segment, Thomas Joly took inspiration from Leonardo da Vinci's famous painting to create the setting. He is not the first artist to make a reference to what is a world-famous work of art. From Andy Warhol to The Simpsons, many have done it before him. So this is the email. So you have the committee themselves saying that he took inspiration from Da Vinci's famous painting. So it was the Last Supper. And yet, this piece of garbage excrement Thomas Joly had the audacity to go on French TV and gaslight us, to lie to us. He couldn't own it. And if he believes in it, and if they believe this is no problem, and if they believe this is where society should head, why not stick to their guns? Why not tell us, you Christians are too sensitive? We did this on purpose because you need to be offended, because you need to confront the fact that your faith sucks. You take Christianity too seriously and Jesus too seriously. We don't believe in him anyway. He's a joke. And we want you to see our atheist way. That's what they should have done. And that's why I don't respect these people, because they're not only just malicious, but they're scheming. And they're dishonest. So Thomas Joly, who apparently was one of the orchestrators of this scheme to gaslight, he said it was a reference to Dionysius, the Greek god of wine and celebration. It's not my inspiration, and that should be pretty obvious, Mr. Joly told the French news outlet BFM TV, is translated by Deadline. There's Dionysius arriving on a table. Why is he there? First and foremost, because he is the god of celebration in Greek mythology, and the tableau is called festivity. So this is where the lie originated. So you've got Democrats out there saying, it wasn't. You're so stupid. You believe fake news if you think that was the Last Supper. Because I listened to Thomas Joly. See, these people don't have any interest in putting the facts together, the evidence together. And whether you don't have a problem or do have a problem with the offensive display, whether it offends you or not, whether you're a Christian or not, you should be deeply offended by the fact that these people are lying to you, that they are dishonest. So anyway, this is the talking point. Oh, yeah, Jan Hermes's Van Bull, whatever, painting the Feast of the Gods. That's what we were doing. It wasn't the Last Supper. So there you have it. So you're dealing with people who are liars. They have no problem lying their way out of things. And we never got a real apology, by the way. We never got a real apology. They were sorry that we felt offended. They didn't make a mistake. They were just sorry that we were offended. It's too bad we were offended. Now, I noticed they didn't consider probably mocking the Prophet Muhammad. Why is that? Why didn't they make fun of Islam in that? You know, it's open season on Christians. It's open season on Western civilization. And I hope you understand that Christianity and Western civilization together, that is what stands in the way of tyranny, of socialism, of communism. You know, the United States of America marks a new era in world history. You know, we are the new world. And before us, people only knew tyranny, monarchies, emperors, and so on and so forth. And the American people have a responsibility to assert the superiority of our Constitution, of our beliefs and ideologies that are laid forth in our Declaration of Independence and our Constitution. You see, we've never known anything else. See, the French, for example, Italians even, Europeans, every other culture that predates America, right? That's been around longer, ancient civilizations. They're mediocre. They're mediocre. They have not enjoyed modern prosperity like the United States of America has, and they can't put the pieces together. You see, the last time that, for example, the French experienced greatness, right, was under kings. And so they look back fondly on that, just like like Russians. They look back on the USSR, the Soviet Union fondly. Now they'll overlook the pain, they'll overlook the oppression, but that's when they perceive themselves to be great. And so people look back fondly on tyranny in these countries because that's the last time they were great. So they attribute their greatness to those corrupt forms of government that man had only known before the United States of America. So anyway, I just wanted to clear that up. I thought you might be interested in that because you actually are correct. It was the Last Supper. And anybody who says it was not the Last Supper is lying to you. And I'm not watching the Olympics, by the way. I'm not watching a single second of it. And I'm not sorry either. You know, that these people, I mean, you know, here, let me just say this. Forget the Christianity thing. I am a Christian. But forget Christianity for a second. The Olympics is a unifying display which brings nations together. It's about unity. And it is family friendly. And drag shows are not family friendly. Drag shows are polarizing. Like strip clubs are polarizing. Like pornography is polarizing. And so these people use the platform intentionally to push their agenda. To push their agenda. And it is a radical minority of people who are disgusting, that are trying to force themselves on society. They don't respect us, but we're told we have to respect them. Only they can be offended, but we're not allowed to be offended. We have to accept this new world that they imagine for us, in which drag shows are the norm. Men dressing like women is the norm. It's not enough that they're free to do it in private. No, it has to be foisted on the public. On a world scale, like we saw at the Olympics. And that's what's offensive to me, that they're doing this. I don't want my children exposed to this crap. It's sick. It's perverted. You're perverted. Now, I agree to allow a certain amount of perversion in society. I'm no fan of strip clubs either, but, you know, if you want to go to a strip club, you can go to one. But don't stick one in my neighborhood. And don't give my children access. And yet here we are, looking at this perversion in our faces, and they're taunting us. And then they gaslight us. So I've had enough. That's why the Olympic thing is a big deal. I don't care about the Olympics, to be honest, really. It's not a big deal to me. But, you know, this is another gross display. And they're not fearful. They're not fearful. And that's the problem. They don't fear us. Nothing happens. No retribution. See, And I'm not supporting this, but you know why they don't make fun of the Prophet Muhammad, right? You know why they wouldn't dare do it, because we've already seen the Charlie Hebdo incident where they printed a cartoon making fun of Muhammad, and then a couple of radical Islamist extremists showed up and beheaded people that worked there. So, we need to speak up, and we need to be forceful, and we don't need to entertain these false notions from the left. We don't need to accept their premises, okay? All right, now let me get into this other story about the Harris campaign. Because, again, a theme here is the rewriting of history. You have the media, of course, carrying the water for Kamala Harris, Vice President Kamala Harris, who, it's just lost. I can't get enough of this. I've got to focus here in a minute and get into the Venezuela thing. But my goodness, this is somebody who never got a single vote. Democrats didn't even like her in 2020. She's the least popular Democrat, perhaps, in the field, was then. And now, without a single vote, she's going to become the presidential nominee. So the Democrat voter even had no say in who their nominee was. Joe was forced on them. They voted for Joe like they were told to, and then they got rid of Joe and replaced him with Kamala Harris, who no one voted for. No American voter was consulted about, but that's the option they're going to be given. You can vote for Kamala. And that's why you're seeing this desperate campaign, by the way, white dudes for Harris. I've never seen a more despicable campaign in my life that represents everything that the United States of America does not, that is antithetical to who we are. The race baiting, the division, the pitting of citizen against citizen, the suggestion that, your duty is to vote for this person because she's black. White dudes for Harris. Can you imagine hating yourself so much that you would eagerly join a group called White Dudes for Harris? What does that mean? Black dudes for Harris, white dudes for Harris. What? Excuse me? White dudes for a ding dong. Self-loathing white dudes. That's what you people are. So, okay, we know that let me do this first. Okay, so Kamala Harris, this is her talking about fracking. Listen.
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. So, yeah, and starting with what we can do on day one around public lands, right? And then there has to be legislation. But yes, and this is something I've taken on in California. I have a history of working on this issue. And to your point, we have to just acknowledge that the residual impact of fracking is enormous in terms of the impact on the health and safety of communities. Yeah, so thank you.
I think she was pretty clear, right? Let me just play the beginning of that again. Let me just, for the slower people in the audience, let me just play it. Listen to what Kamala Harris says. After this clip, I want you to ask yourself this question. Here's the question. Does Kamala Harris support banning fracking? Does Kamala Harris want to ban fracking? Let's see what she says.
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking.
Whoa, there's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. One more time, just one last time. Is Kamala Harris in support of banning fracking? Kamala?
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. So,
okay, I think it's clear. There's no question. And yet, apparently, and this will relate to my previous discussion about the Olympics and why it bothers me. So Harris's campaign is now claiming that she won't ban fracking. Now, here is what Politico put out. Kamala Harris's shift on fracking comes after GOP presidential nominee Donald Trump raised her 2019 stance, calling for banning the oil and gas drilling technique. So, Vice President Kamala Harris's campaign pledged the likely Democratic presidential nominee would not ban fracking, rejecting what it called false accusations by Donald Trump that she would prohibit. False accusations? False accusations? So the Harris campaign says that it's a false accusation that Kamala Harris wants to ban fracking. Excuse me? Here's the clip.
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking.
Oh, there's no question you're in favor. Oh, okay. Well, I'm raising the question. You said you were in favor of banning fracking. Now that's a false allegation. Why? Because you're on the campaign trail now. And also, by the way, these same people who are telling us that climate change is an existential threat to America, right after Donald Trump and people like me. After that, it's climate change. I think the only greater threat than climate change for the Democrat is MAGA, ultra MAGA. So if it's such an existential threat, why is Kamala Harris now lying about her previous position? Why is she telling us that she's not going to ban fracking? If she really cares about the environment, if she really believes, if Democrats believe that climate change is an existential threat and fracking is contributing to that, why would she not come out in favor of banning fracking? Do you see what I mean? These people have zero principles whatsoever. They're abject liars. And what does it tell you? What does it tell you? The majority of the people are not on their side. Their views and opinions are still received by a minority of American citizens. They're not popular. Now they're expanding. They're dangerous. They've created a mind-numbed army of zombies that will pretty much just nod their heads and clap like seals to anything the Democrats propose. But there are other Americans out there, many, a majority, who still can think straight, who haven't been transformed into these robotic Democrat demons. All right. But I'll get back into that story in just a second. I want to get to our first sponsor here. Native Paths Collagen Formula, you've heard me talk about it before. It's scientifically backed to increase bone mineral density, accelerate tissue recovery, reduce wrinkles, enhance hair thickness, and strengthen weaker, damaged nails. Who wouldn't want more collagen with all these benefits? And here is the best part. Right now, when you visit getnativepath.com/dailyclout, you can stock up on Native Path collagen for up to an incredible 45% off today, plus free shipping. Every order comes with a 365-day money-back guarantee, so you can try it risk-free today. Reclaim your life, rejuvenate your spirit, and glow with vitality. And I'll tell you, I've said it 100 times. My wife, she's pregnant for the second time, and she swears by collagen. It is vital. And it's an amazing thing that they're offering. And men can take it too. It's not just for women. So back to this Harris just debacle. So here are details. I'm just reading you from Politico here. I'm sorry I don't have anything to pull up on the screen, but just listen to me. The response by the Harris campaign came after the former president brought up statements Harris made during her 2019 primary run, pledging to ban fracking at a Minnesota campaign rally on Saturday. Now, here's a quote. Trump's false claims about fracking bans are an obvious attempt to distract from his own plans to enrich oil and gas executives at the expense of the middle class, the Harris campaign said in a statement. Whatever. Politico followed up. She would not ban fracking, a campaign spoke. How do you vote as a Democrat for Kamala Harris when she won't even support, when she doesn't even have the courage to come out and fight for the climate? What does that say about Kamala Harris? She doesn't even have the fortitude to stand up against the greatest because she wants to win. What is this? What is this? We're going to die from climate change, and Kamala Harris now supports fracking. How do you justify that? How does that work for you as a Democrat, huh? And here's the background. This is what's so sick about Politico, by the way. Trump's allegations come as Harris is expected to moderate her positions on energy issues after she had been one of the more liberal candidates running for the party's nomination for the 2020 election. Trump's allegation, it's not an allegation. An allegation presupposes that it hasn't been proven, that it might not be true. And I played that clip for you. I played that clip one more time.
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking.
No question she's in favor of banning fracking. But, oh, here we are. Now she's had a change of heart. A change of heart, don't you know? Nobody believes that. So this is what makes me sick about the Democrats and the media. Now, I think it's time that I get into this audio that I want to play for you that is horrific. But I think it's very important that you hear it because it exposes who we're really dealing with. Mentally ill people who have bought into the decades of lies, intentional lies by the Democrat Party that have ramped up over the past 8 years, nearly, certainly, that are intended to diminish the humanity of their political opponents. We already saw this lead to an assassination attempt, failed, thankfully, against former President Trump. And they are not exercising responsibility. There is not a national conversation about what the Democrat Party has done, about who their voters are, and how they are driven to violence. And there's a very simple reason for that, and it's because they have dehumanized we on the right. We are evil. We are Hitler. We are Nazis. And so violence is totally acceptable because our death would be a benefit to this world. That is what they have conveyed to people. They have been incited to violence because of this. Now, this audio I'm going to play in just a minute, and I will warn you ahead of time, do not play this out loud around your children. If you're in a public space, you don't want to play this out loud because it is awful. It is terrifying. It is inappropriate. It is sick. But it is real. And it is a death threat against Catherine Engelbrecht, who I'm going to talk to you about right now. So Catherine Engelbrecht runs a company called True the Vote. She and her organization are dedicated to securing free and fair elections, cleaning the voter rolls, doing those things that, of course, Democrats oppose. Now, CNN wrote a hit piece on her on Monday is when I saw it. And they talk about the technology she's created, she and her partner, Greg Phillips, that allows the individual citizen to use an app to challenge and question and submit queries directly to the local governments to look into questionable voting records. So we know for a fact that this hadn't been happening in California and other places. They don't clean the voter rolls. We know that dead people vote. We know that people cheat. We know that people aren't who they say they are. We know that there's ballot harvesting operations. We're not stupid, and Democrats aren't either. We know how they give themselves an unfair advantage in this because they depend upon a lack of security. They don't want voter ID. They don't want any requirements that would actually ensure that the voter is who they say they are, that they are, in fact, a U.S. citizen. They don't care. They just want every vote to count because they need illegal votes. So CNN puts this out, and I will show you this this headline: 500,000 records in one app. The group behind a massive effort to clean voter rolls. So in this article, they go on to talk about how, I'll just read, police officers in Texas, senior citizens at a nursing home in Pennsylvania, and people who had registered to vote at a Marine base in California. They are among the thousands of voters whose right to cast a ballot has been needlessly challenged ahead of this November's election by activists, many of whom have been inspired by conspiracy theories seeking to prevent voter fraud. Conspiracy theories? Conspiracy theories? My simple right as a voter is being attacked, said Daniel Moss, a university administrator from Denton County, Texas, whose registration was challenged by one of the activists, even though he has lived in the county and voted there for about 2 decades. It's kind of un-American to do that. You see, so demanding anything of anyone is unfair. Looking into suspicious activity apparently is unfair. Maybe that's why we had the assassination attempt, because, it's just unfair. We need to assume that everyone's good. We just need to assume that nothing bad is going to happen. We need to assume that the kid we saw with a rangefinder, with a backpack, that parked, that was taking pictures of, that looked suspicious, we cannot question him and stop him. We have to wait to watch him try and kill the president, and then we'll take him out. Then we'll interrogate him if we needed to, but not before, because God forbid we would suspect anything in this country. Suspect somebody might want to assassinate Donald Trump. Suspect that somebody might be cheating in our elections, unless you're Venezuela, of course, and then it's okay. And then we, as a nation, as Democrats, we challenge the results ourselves. We believe the people, the opposition who say Maduro cheated, but not in this country. That's too far. And so here is Catherine Engelbrecht, who all she is wanting to do and all she is demanding is that we have free and fair elections, and every American should rally behind this. Nobody should be offended. If my voter status and registration was challenged, who cares? As long as I can prove that I am who I am, this should be happening because we know that they have loosened restrictions. Motor voter registration, for example, in which you're automatically registered to vote with a driver's license, which doesn't prove you're even a citizen. We know there is cheating. We know this needs to be tightened up and cleaned up. And she's provided a means to do that is effective. And that's why they hate her. They hate Catherine Engelbrecht because she is actually effective, because her foundation, True the Vote, and her app and Greg Phillips' app is actually working. But look how they dismiss it. Election officials across the country have been inundated with dubious complaints about inaccurate voter rolls, which have wasted government resources and sapped taxpayer money spent renewing lists of registered voters that officials say are already carefully maintained. Oh, yes, we know that these voter rolls are carefully maintained. You know, it is your job as election officials to look into this. So she's actually helping you do your job. And you don't like that because she's forcing you to look into these people, and you are about to become a criminal when you don't do your job. You're about to be in trouble when individual citizens see these problems arise, notify you of it, and you don't do anything. Kind of like the Secret Service. Hey, this guy probably looks like he's going to try and shoot up the place. Okay, I see him. He's suspicious. And what should I do? Nothing. Don't do anything. They want chaos. So they go in and name her. One of the main drivers of the Fruitless Challenge is a conservative Texas-based nonprofit group called True the Vote, an election monitoring organization that has long peddled debunked voter fraud theories. The group's founder, Catherine Engelbrecht, has called on followers to help clean voter rolls by using an app called IV3 that enables users to research voter data and submit voter eligibility challenges to local election offices. This is an entirely wonderful, beneficial thing that everyone can use. Democrats can use it and Republicans can use it. This isn't a Republican tool. This is a tool that can be used by American citizens who want to ensure that the election results are accepted. And yet somehow CNN has a problem with it. Somehow Democrats uniquely view this as a threat. Why is that? They can easily threaten Republicans as well. Voter registrations. So this article gets written. And now I'm warning you. I'm going to play for you audio. I know Catherine, and that's how I have this audio. This is a voice message, a voicemail that was left for her. One of dozens, some from reporters calling her an evil person. And this is from just someone who read this CNN article. And this CNN article talking about True the Vote and Catherine Engelbrecht inspired him to leave this voice message. So again, if you're around kids, do not play this. I was saying around your children. Okay. I'm just warning you. All right. You've got like 5 seconds here. If you're in a position, in a situation, or don't want to be offended by this, don't listen. But I would encourage you to, if you're an adult, because it's important. This is a woman. Let me just play. And you decide for yourself what to think after this.
Catherine, word on the street is that you're a dirty goddamn motherfucking Nazi fucking traitor whore. So anyway, I've got your home address. I was just wanting to verify that I have the correct address because I wanted to come see you, just have a chat and see how you were. You dirty fucking goddamn whore. You fucking fascist fucking traitor slut.
Imagine getting that on your phone. This is who we're dealing with. Look at those words. Fascist. Fascist. It's the Democrat Party that is, in fact, fascist. It's Joe Biden, Kamala Harris. It's they who are fascists, who are trying to take over private industries, make them subservient to the government, which will allow them to exist, will favor certain industries over others as long as they do the bidding of the state. That's fascism. And the root of fascism is what? It's socialism. The same as communism. The root is socialism. It's the Democrat Party that wants to usher in socialism in America. They are the fascists, going after their political enemies, downplaying the fact that an assassination attempt just happened against Trump. Social media, tech companies, once again, interfering in this election by trying to make that go away, scrub history. Politico, the media, covering for Kamala Harris, allowing her to lie and make these absurd claims, denying who she is. But that's what somebody said to Catherine Engelbrecht. And it happened because of CNN. The way they frame us as election deniers. See, these things have consequences. Now, they don't say this about the people in Venezuela. Those are election deniers too. But you know what? CNN supports that argument. They're saying, they're not calling them election deniers in Venezuela. They're supporting those claims, saying that they're valid in some way. And so the media is shaping and molding the minds of these militant, mind-numbed, violent, robotic Democrats in America. We're hitting rock bottom. And imagine getting this type of audio voice. This is common for Catherine. This is common for many people on the right. But this is what happens. What type of mentally ill human being leaves a voice message like that? And why? What is Catherine Engelbrecht's great crime? How is she a fascist? Because she wants to ensure free and fair elections? Because she wants people to accept the election results? Because she believes in free and fair elections? And this guy has the audacity to call, and I want to find out who this is. I want to find out who this is, and I'll stick his face out there because I don't care. You can't go and do this anonymously and hide. Threaten women like this in our country. What type of society are we that we have men like this, scumbags like this, hiding behind their phones, threatening to show up and do harm to private American citizens, women? This is a Democrat voter. This is an avid reader of CNN. CNN and the Democrat Party and the media are inciting violence left and right. They are fomenting mental illness in this country. They are creating monsters because they themselves are monsters. And there is no accountability. There is no expression of remorse. There is no apology ever. They want to go ahead and pretend like the assassination didn't happen. But there you have that audio, and I want you to remember that. I want you to know who we're dealing with. You think you can kumbaya with that person? You think that person can sit down and is going to be rational? You think that he's going to care about the truth? He's not. And why is he that way? Because he's one of these people who believes the Democrat talking points, that Trump is evil, that MAGA is evil. The most dangerous threat to democracy, where did that come from? It came from Joe Biden. It came from Kamala Harris. It came from Democrats. They don't say these things about Maduro. They don't say these things about anyone. But they say them about Trump and us, American citizens, who actually support policies and want to implement changes that would benefit these very people that want us dead. We actually want to make their lives better and improve them, but they don't want to improve our lives. They want to drag us all down into the absolute in hell where they are. So anyway, that's what was said. One of a dozen messages to Catherine Engelbrecht. That's who we're dealing with. Never forget it, okay? All right, I want to get to our second sponsor here today, the Wellness Company. Now, before we get into some of our final stories here, we are living in a time of uncertainty, and it lurks around every single corner. Preparedness is no longer an option. It's an absolute necessity. That's where the wellness company's medical emergency kit comes into play. Imagine having the peace of mind that you're fully equipped to handle any medical crisis, from something as common as tick bites to the challenges posed by the latest pandemic. The wellness company's medical emergency kit contains crucial medications like ivermectin, emergency antibiotics, amoxicillin, antiviral, Z-Pak, and more. Everything you need. It's all there. It's the ultimate preparedness solution. And rest assured, this kit is backed by the expertise of the wellness company. I mean, it's an amazing team of doctors, Dr. Peter McCullough, Dr. James Thorpe, Dr. Harvey Reish, Dr. Drew Pinsky, other truth-seeking doctors as well. And they've crafted this kit that really does set the gold standard for safety and prevention. So visit dailyclouthealth.com and use promo code DAILYCLOUT, D-A-I-L-Y, Daily Clout, C-L-O-U-T, for an exclusive 10% discount. Take charge of your preparedness today and enjoy peace of mind for tomorrow. So let's get into Venezuela here because it relates to these lunatics that are exposing themselves as such, again, humiliating themselves. So in Venezuela, you know, you have the Democrats questioning the election results. I mean, I don't understand. Venezuela uses Dominion voting systems like we do. Reports of poll watchers were prevented from monitoring the elections in Venezuela. Well, that's just like here. The poll watchers were also prevented from monitoring our own elections in 2020. That's what Democrats did here, prevented monitoring of elections. So, you know, I don't understand. The Venezuela election was conducted in the exact same way that our own election was conducted in 2020. So how could they question Venezuela? Unless, of course, you know, they're frauds and cheats. And so anyway, the issue here, they say, you know, there are two, there's a digital tally that's sent by voting sites to the country's election body. And then there's also a paper tally of ballots cast that is printed by each voting machine at a polling sites, and they're supposed to be harmonized, right? And they haven't been forthcoming in releasing 100% of those paper ballots to give confirmation. And it looks like it was a stolen election. Here's a CNN headline. Claims of election irregularities started to emerge on Sunday evening as the votes were being counted, including opposition witnesses being denied access to the CNE headquarters as the authority counted votes. CNE, I forget what it stands for, has to do with the election integrity wing there in Venezuela. Doesn't matter. Anyway, so once again, CNN, claims of election irregularities. When did claims of election irregularities begin in the United States of America in 2020, huh? Didn't we have claims of election irregularities? So why is it these claims of election irregularities in Venezuela are taken seriously? And we're called conspiracy theorists. Why aren't the Democrats accusing these Venezuelans who are calling, this a stolen election? Why aren't they calling them election deniers, conspiracy theorists? Why don't we accept the results in Venezuela? After all, they were conducted in the exact same perfect way our own election was. And here's a headline by The Economist, by the way. The Economist, of course, which calls us, conspiracy theorists, that says that we're insurrectionists. Well, Nicolas Maduro claims implausible victory in Venezuela. Oh, so his victory was implausible. His victory was implausible, and yet Joe Biden's victory with 81 million votes was not implausible? Huh? It's incredible to watch this, isn't it? And it's amazing, too, because you have Secretary of State Blinken. Let me go to his quotation here. So we have serious concerns, Blinken says, that the result announced does not reflect the will or the votes of the Venezuelan people. The international community is watching this very... Where was the international community watching our elections? Where was Blinken Blinken saying he had serious concerns about that the result in 2020 didn't reflect the will. You know, it's amazing because you can't help but look at what just happened in Venezuela and realize all along what happened here in 2020. Trump won in 2020. No doubt in my mind. And you know what? You can't call me a conspiracy theorist. If you want to call me a conspiracy theorist and an election denier, then you have to do the same thing to Venezuelans, because Venezuelans are calling BS just like we did based on the same information, based on election interference. So I don't want to hear it. Yeah, Maduro stole the election just like Joe Biden, Democrats stole the election in 2020. Just like you're going to try again in 2024 in November. We know. That's why you have these lunatics, these radical, mentally ill, violent pieces of human excrement. I want to meet this guy, by the way. Come meet me, my friend. Threatening a woman like that. Oh, I'm going to knock on your door. Let's go, tough guy. Let's bring it. Let's go. Show up at my door. See what happens. So, I don't have a tolerance for this. We used to be a society that could sit here and recognize that there was a problem, that could universally condemn this type of thing. I can't get over that phone call, to be honest. I cannot get over it. It makes my stomach just twist. That there are men in this country that are such pieces of crap, filth, that they would speak that way to a woman, that they would threaten a woman like that. Who are we? Who are we? Well, it's a fight of good versus evil, and that's my point. That's who we're fighting against. That's the enemy. So, anyway. So that's what's going on. Here we go. Questioning the election results everywhere in the world is okay, except here. It's just unbelievable. It's almost a gift from God in a way, because you just look at this and it's hilarious. I mean, it's just so funny in one way. They prevented people from monitoring the elections in Venezuela. That was unfair. You mean like in the United States of America? They haven't been transparent. You mean like in the United States of America? There was no transparency. Yeah. A urinal was leaking in Atlanta, Georgia, and they had to evacuate the building in the middle of the night. They kicked out all the monitors, and then they pulled out ballots from under the table and kept counting ballots all night. Oh, that's not suspicious. No, you're making that up. It's just like, that wasn't the Last Supper you saw. You didn't just watch on camera cheating happening in Atlanta, Georgia. No, you conspiracy theorist, you nut, you lunatic. See what they do? It's all gaslighting. They stole 2020 in front of our faces. And this is what I'm talking about. If we want to beat these people, we have to talk this way. Assertive, confident. We can't be hesitant. We can't be mincing our words. We can't say, well, I don't. No. Be assertive. They stole 2020. They lied about the Last Supper. They're lying about Kamala Harris's record. They're rewriting history. They're erasing history. That's who they are. No principles, no morals, nothing. By the way, just as an aside, while we're talking about all these things that are important, the Biden administration has not changed at all. 3 suspected Palestinian terror suspects were caught after illegally crossing the border into California. That's still going on, by the way. How many terrorists are here? We don't know. We've got to deal with white dudes for Harris. We got to deal with the media's hit jobs on J.D. Vance. Meanwhile, terrorists are entering our country under the open border policies of this administration that has no leader. And you know what they've said, by the way, about this. I mean, this is Seymour Hersh, who people are questioning whether it's reliable or not, but whether it's all true or not, it makes sense. He's saying that ultimately Kamala Harris and Barack Obama got together with the big dog billionaire donors that wanted Biden out, and they forced him out, threatening him with the 25th Amendment. They threatened him with the 25th Amendment. Apparently Barack Obama, so the story goes, called Joe Biden at breakfast and told him, Kamala's willing to use the 25th Amendment to oust you. And I don't see any reason not to believe that. I mean, he was gung-ho. Friday, he was ready to stay in the race. Sunday, he's announcing he's gone. So something serious had to happen. Some big threat had to take place. And that makes sense. Because Joe Biden, even as mentally gone as he is, he cares about legacy. He doesn't want an asterisk by his name, the only president to be ousted with the 25th Amendment. He doesn't want that by his record. An acknowledgement that he's not mentally capable of running the country. He doesn't want that. So in exchange, You had the Democrats do what? It's logical to me. You had them get behind the TV screens and cameras and say, oh, he's George Washington, selfless. That was the talking point. So they're spinning this to make him look good. They're trying to protect his legacy to some extent. And by the way, I don't have time to get into it fully today, but just know that Joe Biden has doubled down. The people behind the scenes have doubled down on attacking our republic. So the great defenders of democracy are now trying to violate the Constitution by getting involved with the Supreme Court, a separate but equal branch of government. So imagine if the Supreme Court, just decided that they were going to, write some laws that Congress had to. I mean, it's crazy. Here's Joe Biden, by the way. He's so respectful of the Constitution.
I have great respect for our institutions and the separation of powers laid out in our Constitution. But what's happening now is not consistent with that doctrine.
Oh, yeah. He respects the Constitution so much that he's going to violate it. They respect democracy so much that they will violate it to protect it. Don't you know? That makes perfect sense. I love the Constitution, but it's not working for me. So out of my love for the Constitution, I'm going to rip it to shreds. So, they're proposing Congress, pass codes of conduct and so on and so forth that would affect the Supreme Court, which, again, separation of powers, separate but equal. Congress has no jurisdiction over the Supreme Court. Separate be equal branch. I don't know what's so hard to understand about that for people. But of course, Joe Biden and the Democrats don't like the Supreme Court because, unfortunately, it is, the last obstacle between them and securing tyranny in America. It is. And right now, we have enough justices. They have enough sense and enough morality that they will not rubber stamp tyranny. They will not rubber stamp. They are still standing for the biggest components of the Constitution. And the Democrats don't like that. If they had control of the Supreme Court, they'd be able to do whatever they wanted. They'd be able to, put Trump in prison and get away with it. They could violate. I mean, that's the thing. So the Supreme Court is, unfortunately, it's like the last thing standing between us and tyranny in many ways. And I just want to play this for you, too. Here's Elizabeth Warren. If you want to know who Kamala Harris is, right? She's not the border czar. Kamala Harris isn't the border czar, they tell us. Another lie. So, on one hand, they want us to believe that Kamala Harris isn't responsible for anything that's happened to this country. And at the same time, convince us that, she's been in charge and that she's ready to lead. But here's Senator Elizabeth Warren, Pocahontas, talking about her immigration amnesty positions. Kamala's.
The border, to have more resources in the states and cities that are supporting migrants. And I believe we need to create a pathway to citizenship. All of that is a part of what we need to do for comprehensive immigration reform. Kamala Harris will work with Congress and get that done.
So Kamala will work with Congress and get all of these 20 million illegals that have come in here over the last nearly 4 years amnesty. You see what these people do? And they expect us not to deport them, not to get rid of them. See, they think they can just do it. And this is true. This is what happens so often. But anyway, I'm going over here in time because I messed up my clock. But well, I'll have to save it for another day, I guess. But let me just end with this, just so you know what's going on here. You've got big tech interference, right? So you had Facebook the other day that now has acknowledged that it mistakenly censored the iconic image of former President Donald Trump with his fist raised in the immediate aftermath of the July 13 assassination attempt. So a user that posted it was threatened with being deplatformed. And we caught them, and now they're saying it was a mistake. You notice this happens all, it was just a mistake. Oh, we deplatformed. Oh, it was a mistake. So we didn't mean to do. We weren't targeting you. There's nothing sinister at play. And then you had a key Google feature, which I noticed has reversed since then, that was failing to show results for the attempted assassination of Donald Trump. So it's now sparked a Senate investigation, but Google users were surprised to discover that the search engine's autocomplete was apparently omitting suggested results related to the assassination. And we caught it. We blew it up. And so Google has changed that. I was able to search for it today, but yesterday you were not. So anyway, that's what we're dealing with, folks. That's what we're dealing with, folks. We're dealing with evil people. And, they're not going to just, you don't need to change is my point. I mean, it's the problem isn't on our side. The problem is them. They need to change. They need to fix their brains. They need to find God. They need to find joy. So their way is not the way to utopia. So don't sit here and pretend like they have something to offer you. They need you to set them straight. They need you to tell them the truth. So don't entertain any of this because they want you dead in many cases, as you heard in that audio from Catherine Engelbrecht that was left for her. All right. God bless you all. This is Drew Allen, your Millennial Minister of Truth, as always. Until next time.